And welcome. My name is Kate Marand. I work at DC's Department of Small and Local Business Development as part of our Innovation and Equitable Development Division. DSLBD supports all small and local businesses that are here in the District of Columbia, and through InnoEd, we also support entrepreneurs who are DC residents. We're very excited today to have one of our colleagues in government from the Department of Energy and the Environment to tell us a little bit more about an agency that does so much work across the district and so much good work as we look towards sustainability and fighting climate change. I would like to introduce Jamie Donovan from the Department of Energy and the Environment's Energy Administration, and he's going to walk us through a little bit about that work and about a particular initiative, Clean Energy DC. Jamie?
Thank you, Kate, and thank you for organizing this event. I think it's a great idea as an outreach tool to our local businesses, so I'm honored to be here. As a former Department of General Services employee, I am used to working with small businesses, and I know it can be hard to navigate all the different things going on in the city and all the different agencies. So it's a commendable event and series you have organized here. And I'm Jamie Donovan. I now work at the Department of Energy and Environment in the District of Columbia. Our director is Tommy Wells, and our agency covers a lot of different sectors and topics, from energy to air quality to natural resources and others. So we have quite a big portfolio, and one of our biggest topics these days is our energy systems and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to global warming. So I'm going to talk today about Clean Energy DC, which is the city's plan to reduce its energy consumption and carbon emissions, and how this impacts the city and the opportunities there may be for businesses and residents. So I'll start with just a high-level summary of the plan. I'll talk about what some of the different goals are in the plan, and then I'll go sector by sector and talk about specific policies and also opportunities for our contractors and residents. I'm going to give a high-level presentation, and my contact information's at the end of this. And so I really encourage you to reach out to me if you have any other questions or you want me to put you in touch with any of my colleagues here. I'm happy to do so. So I'm going to go on to my slide now and see if this works. I should be in presentation mode. Let me know if I'm not.
It looks great.
Thank you. So what is Clean Energy DC? It's the District of Columbia's climate and energy plan. But there's also a Clean Energy DC Act. So in 2018, the city adopted the Clean Energy DC plan. And then later that year, the council took key parts of it and put them into a law called the Clean Energy DC Omnibus Amendment Act and turned them into law. And now here we are in 2022, and we've been implementing these policies for a few years now. At a high level, the plan aims to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, which cause climate change, by 50% by 2032. The main way we do that is reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. So fuels you use to drive to work, to heat your home, to cook, anything that use fossil fuels, we're trying to reduce that. Our other goals are to reduce district-wide energy use by 50% by 2032 per capita, and increase the amount of renewable energy to make up 50% of our electricity supply. So how are we doing today? We've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by about 30%. And so we are on our way to meeting our 50% goal, but this is one of those things where it gets harder and harder as you pluck the low-hanging fruit and have to do more intensive interventions. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but if any of you are interested in seeing sort of sector by sector how we're going to do this, this is a summary that shows you which interventions or policies will get us there, from fuel standards to new building construction policies to targeting reductions at government facilities. So I'm going to talk about the building, transportation, and energy sectors here, and specifically the Clean Energy DC Act, because as I mentioned earlier, that took recommendations from the Clean Energy DC plan and turned them into law. And since it's now law, these aren't just goals, they're specific programs that we're implementing as an agency and investing money in. So the first one is in 2019, we established the Building Energy Performance Standards, and this essentially says buildings, many of our buildings have to significantly reduce their energy use by up to 20% over the next 5 years, including public buildings. So there's a lot of opportunity there to reduce our energy use. And another part of that is to develop a CBE, which is our small and local businesses here in DC training program. And so under contractor opportunities, and I've linked this, if it's sent out, hopefully you can access these links. The DC Sustainable Energy Utility has a program really for CBEs and local businesses to help them get into the building energy efficiency world. And this is a free program to any of our local businesses. So I would encourage you to check that out if you're interested. Another opportunity is PEPCO has proposed to a regulator, so it's not approved yet, a new energy efficiency and demand response program targeting residential properties, among others. If you look at Maryland, the Montgomery County PEPCO program, it's pretty close to what they've identified here, but there'll be a lot of new opportunities for companies that want to do home energy audits, energy efficiency projects such as attic insulation, lighting upgrades, a whole host of programs that before were not incentivized or subsidized. And so I think there should be a lot of opportunity there as well. And the DCSEU, DC Sustainable Energy Utility, also has programs that support contractors and a lot of funding to help make our businesses more efficient. And there's a process to get in on their programs and be a certified contractor. And then I'll move on to renewable energy. The Clean Energy DC Act really actually made us set some of the strongest national laws and made DC a leader in clean energy. So it established a law that by 2032, 100% of our electricity purchases in DC will come from renewable sources, including a portion that has to come from solar electricity right here in DC. So DC has a very strong competitive solar market. I think there's some 20 odd solar companies here. So, you know, it's pretty competitive now. I don't know how much opportunity there is for new entrants, but, you know, maybe there's ways to work with them if you do roofing stuff or if you want to get involved. There's a lot of solar demand here. There's also the SolarWorks job training program, which trains DC residents to be solar installers. We're expanding that program. And so if you go to SolarWorks DC, if you just Google that, you can find out more information on that and how to participate. Or you can email me and I'll connect you with my colleague. So transportation was another part of the Clean Energy DC Act. The district has set goals and dates for when we need to electrify fleets. And so fleets include passenger vehicles, public buses like the Circulator and WMATA, and other private fleets. And so those dates change somewhat depending on what kind of vehicle it is, but There's pretty strict dates for 2030. A sizable portion will have to be electrified, and by 2045, all of our fleets and vehicles will have to be electrified. As part of that, there'll be new incentives for electric vehicles and EV charging on top of federal incentives. So the district is developing our roadmap right now for our electric vehicle strategy, but there's a lot of federal funding coming out of the Biden administration. So we expect there to be significant investments in electric vehicle infrastructure and also electric vehicle fleets and fleet maintenance in the pipeline. PEPCO currently has an EV program where you can find incentives, but also if you own a lot of fleets, you might be able to partner with our utility to do to have sort of subsidized electrification. We're expecting there to be a lot of opportunities for electricians and construction workers installing electric vehicle infrastructure as it becomes more ubiquitous throughout the city. And I'm sorry, I don't have more information on this now. We're developing a transportation electrification roadmap, which we hope will be published later this year, where you can see more details on what the city's vision is for this. But it's a pretty exciting industry and certainly one to watch if you're in anything to do with construction, electrical engineering, et cetera. And then finally, the district is providing more and more incentives and financing resources to help local businesses access financing to do clean energy projects. So we have the DC Green Bank, which provides financing to developers and other businesses who do solar projects, affordable housing projects, and these could be loans to do project loans, but they could also be pre-development loans for early stages where you're trying to figure out what kind of project you want to do, but you don't have money to cover the soft costs, to stormwater grants. There's the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, which provides rebates to district residents and businesses who want to make their homes or businesses more efficient. And as I mentioned, PEPCO will soon also be running a program. So, you know, I work with these companies and I still check their websites fairly regularly because they're often offering new programs. So I would encourage you to do the same if you think you're interested in something like that. The Department of Energy and Environment, we have grant programs that are on a rolling basis that support our local businesses and nonprofit organizations, trying to help us reduce our environmental and climate impacts. And I posted a link there to our website. It's another thing you should check regularly if you think there might be some stuff of interest to you. A new program we launched, which we're excited about, is the Affordable Housing Retrofit Accelerator. And I mentioned we have a new building energy performance standard to help our buildings reduce their energy use. And this retrofit accelerator has been rolled out specifically to help our affordable housing buildings, which have to comply with these energy standards. It helps fund them. And I think we've invested over $20 million to target and make our affordable housing more efficient, which generally makes it also healthier because you're improving indoor air quality through ventilation and other just good building management practices. And then finally, other agencies, you know, I mentioned Department of General Services, they'll have to comply with a lot of this stuff. So I imagine they'll be issuing requests for funding notices on their website, along with a lot of our other agencies as we move forward. Finally, and this is my last slide, thank you for sticking with me there. Here's my contact information. I'm in the Energy Administration. Please reach out to me. I can share with you these links if this website isn't sent around with live links in the PowerPoint. I'm happy to provide these to Kate and she can send them to you. But we have a Clean Energy DC website where you can find the plan and some other information. And we also have a Clean Energy DC newsletter, which we publish monthly. And we always include funding opportunities and other notices that we think public and businesses can take advantage of. So I would encourage you to sign up for that newsletter if you're interested in staying in touch with what we're doing. So I'll conclude there and say this is just a part of what our agency does that's focused on energy, but I hope it's been helpful and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Jamie, thank you so much. We have several questions that are in the chat, and so we're going to work through those. I'm going to encourage everyone on the line, if you have more questions, please do be putting those in the chat. And then if we have any call-in users, we'll come to you at the end and see if you want to unmute and ask any questions. But let me start with the ones that we already have. So regarding energy audits and efficiency projects, could you elaborate on raising awareness and opportunities for homeowners on limited incomes, particularly those who may be facing digital divide or other technology challenges?
Okay, yes, I can. We have I'm sorry, it was a division of our agency, and now they're a separate branch. It's the Affordability. They have a new name, which is why I'm stumbling here. Utility Affordability Division, and they provide benefits to residents that are struggling to pay their energy bills or their water bills. And they also they do some home energy audits in weatherization work. So if you're below a certain threshold of income and say your air conditioning breaks, that's a real health safety thing, if it's 100 degrees in the summer. And so they do free weatherization work along with utility affordability just to help residents pay their bills if they can't do it. So those are existing programs. And then I expect more to roll out as PEPCO continues to develop their low-income program.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. We have a number of other questions, so I'll keep moving through. And this is one, Jamie, I'm also happy to hop in on a little bit too, because I know it's a small business question. From a small business perspective, and especially for micro businesses, which can have different definitions, we usually define that as 5 or fewer employees. How is DC promoting programs related to energy and sustainability? And will this be done with a multi-prong approach?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kate. I'm happy to tackle that question as best I can. We do have, when you have to reach different communities, you have to do a lot of different outreach stuff. So we post stuff on our website. We have a newsletter, but we also do things like direct mail. For example, we have a program called Solar for All, and it provides low and middle income residents with solar energy, and it reduces their bill by at least 50%. It's not a gimmick, it really does that. And for that, we do direct mailing. We have engagement team that goes out, they go door to door, they hold events, they go to community events. So it's really a multi-pronged approach and a lot of hustling just to try to figure out how to reach everyone. But if we're not reaching you and you have ideas, we're open to them.
Wonderful, thank you for that. And we'll just add just a couple more pieces that we are very excited from the Department of Small and Local Business Development to be partnering very heavily with the Department of Energy and Environment in multiple ways, and this is a piece of that. There are a number of trainings that we have had partnering with both the DC SEU and DOEE that are available on our YouTube. We can look to send some of those additional links out when we send the recording from this, but we're still building up. There's a lot of really great things that are happening at DOEE, and so we hope that this session is the first in a series working through many of the divisions that are at DOEE because they do a lot of really great work. So I'm going to drop a link if you are interested specifically in contracting opportunities, particularly related to building energy efficiency. We have a partnership on that. You can sign up for the email list. I dropped that link in now, and I'll share that again when we send out the recording. But we'll move to that next question. Given the cost of transition to electrification, who is DC allocating funding to for this aside from federal funding?
Okay, and I think the question references, well, it could reference just there's a trend to electrify buildings. In addition to, I know in my presentation I mentioned we're electrifying transportation, but there's also a trend to electrify buildings as well. And so for transportation specifically, we're applying for federal funding and using agency funding as well to do this, and just building it into agency budgets. In terms of building electrification, which includes getting fossil fuels out of homes and getting fossil fuels out of buildings. We have a low-income pilot we're working on with the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, where we actually go into low-income households and we take out their gas appliances and put in new electric appliances. And so, as I mentioned earlier, there's also a health aspect because having combustion appliances in your home, particularly if they're not well ventilated, can cause a lot of respiratory and other problems. So it's going to be, we haven't figured it out yet as a city or the country, but we're investing in a number of different pilots to target key sectors of the community.
Thank you for that. We've got a few more. Make sure we stay within time, but with regard to the increasing number of certified trade workers, particularly in the industry of sustainability, green energy, and other spaces, is DC working with labor unions? As you know, the AFL-CIO headquarters are here in DC. Is there any consideration to working with them, training, apprenticeship, and certification? And I'm happy to say a little bit on that as well, Jamie, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I would just say we are, and we recently applied for a multi-million-dollar federal grant to strengthen, in partnership with the unions, to strengthen the programs we offer and apprenticeship programs. But let me let you answer that, Kate.
Yeah, I will highlight that the DCSEU trainings that Jamie has been talking about are available for the staff of certified business enterprises and local small businesses. They are also available to any DC resident. So if you are a DC resident and you're interested in trainings that will help you work in the green energy field, whether that's solar or building energy certification and changes, they have career pathways that they've built into those trainings. And so that's, again, available at DCSEU. The trainings haven't quite started for this year, but they'll be starting soon. We really do encourage people to connect to that. And the last piece that I will say on apprenticeship, and this should be up on our YouTube, last week for a Lunch and Learn, we talked with the DOES Apprenticeship Office. There is more and more possible within apprenticeship, and there's a lot of federal funding for apprenticeship right now. So if you are interested in that, you can take a look at that recording and also reach out to the apprenticeship office. So these are just some pieces, because I know that there's a lot with all of the workforce and certification pieces, but those are some highlights that we can make right now. To the next question, regarding landscaping and yard services, how much is DC monitoring adherence to new regulations, especially with regard to motorized equipment such as leaf blowers? And Jamie, I'm also happy to answer some stuff from a recent webinar, but I don't know if you want to take that first.
I would just say that we're working to promote this at DOE. We're working with the DCSEU, and they provide a rebate now if you want to buy an electric leaf blower. And I think the regulations with another agency, so I don't have any more specifics on that.
And I can share that we held a session both with DOEE and DCRA and the DCSEU in February that is also up on our website if you want to be able to look at that. DCRA, the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, is responsible for the leaf blower regulations and enforcement, and they go into detail in that session. And I will come back over. Is DOEE involved with disaster and emergency preparedness related to the implementation of this new technical infrastructure, such as training businesses or residents on potential hazards related to solar, wind, etc.?
I know we consider that, but I'd have to ask someone on my team what our policies are.
And so, yeah, if that was your question, you can feel free to follow up either with Jamie or send that over to us at inno.ed@dc.gov, so we can look to get a follow up on that. So let me see. I know there's some more questions. One question is, how will DC use the funds under the Infrastructure Act to finance the programs that Jamie has talked about?
Yeah, thank you. This is a good question. And the Infrastructure Act sends a lot of federal dollars to DC, and some of it is formula, meaning we just are assigned a certain amount of money that they give us, and then other is competitive grants, so we would actually have to apply for it. So for the money we know we're getting, we're currently trying to figure out where that might fit into our programs. A lot of it will support Clean Energy DC. Electric charging, for example, the city's getting $17 million, so we know we're going to put in new electric chargers. And now we're trying to decide which other funding we'll apply for. And they haven't released exactly what those will be yet, so we're monitoring them, and we'll keep our stakeholders informed if we apply and we get funding.
I know we're getting close on time. I've got two more questions. If we did miss your question in the chat, please do feel free to follow up with both Jamie and or our team so we can make sure that we get an answer to you. But another question is someone who spoke with someone in the sustainability office, Dan Gilbo, last year about gaps with the adoption of solar, particularly around community awareness and engagement as it pertains to certain energy goals. And so they're curious about the general status of the this year for that goal and any key initiatives or opportunities for contractors to get involved, not necessarily in solar installation, but maybe in community engagement and awareness.
Yeah, so thank you. I would connect you with our Solar for All team to better answer that question, but they do a lot of our community solar projects, and they have the goal of providing solar to 100,000 low and middle income residents in DC. And I know that they have staffed up to do their outreach, but there are opportunities. As I said, they do direct mailing, they do other outreach activities. So I don't know offhand if they're soliciting anything now, but I know they have stepped up their efforts and time to time do use third parties for it.
Thank you for that. And then we have time for one last question. And this question is asking, are there any contracting opportunities for EV or green energy companies? The company is specifically Obsidian Propulsion, and they manufacture EVs and they provide green energy consulting.
Yeah, I think there will be. You have to follow the what procurement notifications and funding opportunities come out. We'll use our newsletter to bring those to your attention, but and I would follow DDOT because I think our Department of Transportation in DC will be the managing agency for that. And so I would encourage you to reach out to them or check their website because there will be a lot of opportunities in the EV infrastructure realm, and also PEPCO. I think there'll be more opportunities through PEPCO as well.
Great. I know that we are at time. I just want to say a really big thank you to Jamie. If your question did not get answered, I'm going to put our email address back in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to Jamie or to reach out to us. And a quick piece on some of these contracting opportunities. If you are interested in contracting with district government and you are not yet connected with the Certified Business Enterprise Program or the DC Procurement Technical Assistance Center, please feel free to reach out to us at inno.ed@dc.gov. We can help you get connected to those so that they can help support you in your contracting procurement. A really big thanks today to Jamie, and we'll go ahead and stop the recording.
Thank you, Kate, and for all the good questions in the audience. This was a great session.